So I'm going to give you my opinion on testing cases and data sufficiency in general. And I should point out, though, that there's some small number of data sufficiency questions in which the number of possible cases to test is very limited. For example, if they say n is an even integer between 55 and 65, okay, well, there's not that many possibilities for n. It has to be either 56, 58, 60, 62, or 64. Those are the only options. Those are the data sufficiency questions where it's appropriate and usually necessary to test cases. So I'm not saying never test cases in data sufficiency. There are some subset of data sufficiency questions where there's a small possible number of cases, and there it's absolutely appropriate to test cases. However, in most data sufficiency questions, there's an infinite number of viable cases that you could test. And proving insufficiency may be possible because you might manage to find two viable cases that lead to different answers. But proving sufficiency is actually impossible. Like, to prove sufficiency by testing cases, when there's an infinite number of viable cases, you'd have to test an infinite number of cases in order to prove sufficiency. Because how do you know that there isn't some other case you didn't think of to test that would lead to a different answer? And so then the only way to prove it is by conceptual reasoning. Now, what I've found in my experience is that when people are really good at figuring out which cases to test, it's because they get the reasoning that the question is trying to test. However, if they get the reasoning the question is trying to test, well, they don't need to test cases because they get the reasoning. And so, a lot of times I see GMAT instructors showing students, oh yeah, just test these two cases and that's how you solve the question. And the students are like, whoa, but how did you know which cases to test? And the answer is the instructor knew which cases to test because the instructor gets the reasoning that the question is trying to test. And that instructor wouldn't actually test cases in real life because he or she doesn't need to test cases because they get the reasoning that's being tested. So, but then the students are like, oh, wow, that was amazing. You solved it by testing cases. That's how I should do it too. But then they don't actually get the reasoning that's being tested, and then they don't know which cases to test. And that's when you spend 3, 4, 5 minutes on a question, just kind of testing cases randomly without any strategy and without any understanding of the reasoning that's being tested. And that's why I'm not a fan of testing cases in questions where there's an infinite number of viable cases to test. I think we don't learn anything from it when we do it at home. And I think when we do it at the test center, then we're very likely to run out of time. Because it's just because we're doing it randomly without any method to the madness and without a strategy. If you found this video useful, go to quantreasoning.com for a lot more where that came from. You should also click that like button and let me know in the comments below what you'd like me to make future videos about. And of course, if you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and do that and click that bell below so you get notified about future videos. See you next time.